Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in once again to the Duval Dive. Of course, I am Kyle Nash, the student of the game of Fans First Sports Network here with this latest mailbag, the final. Well, not the final, but one of the mailbag editions. These are two of the meatier questions we dealt with. We probably have one more mailbag episode after this, so make sure you look out for that. We've been doing so many of them because you guys have had so many awesome questions for us to touch on. And listen, it's also been a fun time for me and my personal champion, Travis D. Holmes of Big Cat Country, to sink the teeth into this meat of questions. Man, listen, the Duval Divers have done great things for us. And, man, listen, I'm glad you're along for the ride to answer these questions, man.
Yes, sir. They have shown up and shown out Duval, man. So we appreciate you guys. And again, whenever you have questions, come into the chat. Hit us up on all the different socials and let us know. Like, we love doing these mailbag questions, especially at this time of year. And I don't even care if it's about football. You need advice. I mean, I might not give you stock advice, but we absolutely got you. If you need relationship advice, let's talk about it. I'm here for all of it.
Buy low, sell high. That's the stock advice, right? No,
That's probably not the relationship advice though, but maybe a little bit.
I mean, listen, everything is case sensitive, and we are not market professionals. This is for entertainment purposes only. However, the place where we are market professionals is talking some Jacksonville Jaguars with you. So let's get into our first question here. An OLine style question gets me excited every time, but Winford on Facebook asks, my question is, with the signing of all the O-linemen, how do they really feel about Walker Little and Anton Harrison? Now, this is something we've explored a little bit ourselves, but in all honesty, what seems to have been consistent, especially in my opinion, since the departure of Cam Robinson, is how much the previous regime valued versatility and being able to plug and play guys. And that's it's really hard to have elite level dudes across an offensive line that can play every position that well. That is a hard ask and a hard thing to achieve. But we've seen Walker Little do a great job doing that, stepping in both for Cam Robinson and at the guard position a lot of times in the past couple of seasons. Certainly in the past 2 or 3 that I've been covering the Jacksonville Jaguars, Walker Little has made himself a force ever since he slowed Micah Parsons in the overtime win over the Cowboys. What is that, 22, Travis? Yeah. So, that's been a big deal. I don't think Walker Little, especially with the extension that he got, is in any real danger. He's another guy with versatile talent. He's more likely to get on the field. Anton Harrison, however, is a fascinating question. I'm not saying he's in trouble now, but Travis, would you say that Anton is in the middle of what we might call a make or break year, and he needs to prove it to this new regime?
I mean, I think I would agree with that philosophy or that thought process, but I'm not as on board as you are with the fact that Walker Little isn't in necessarily trouble. I don't know that anyone has the ability to kind of hang their hat on anything that they've done in past years if they're not working at an all pro level or even a Pro Bowl level. Walker Little has a book that is about this thin as far as the work that he's put on film and the consistency that he's shown on film, if that makes sense. Every year he's played, for the most part, has been a little bit of up and down. So he has something to prove, and I hope he believes that. I have to believe that he does. So overall, I'm saying, yeah, I see what you're saying as far as how he's played in the past, but also I think Anton and Walker Little have a lot to prove on the field for this new regime, who's also going to be switching the scheme. And while Walker Little did play better in the past scheme, yesterday's work don't have nothing to do with today's work, and yesterday's performance has nothing to do with today's performance in a different scheme and under a different coach. You have to reprove yourself in training camp against these, count them, 1, 2, 3 swing tackle options that they brought in to this organization now. Fred Johnson, Eagles swing tackle, but he also had 28 starts at University of Florida at guard. You got Patrick McCurry, who can play all 5 spots. Who's, again, he's probably even better at tackle than he is at guard. And if they bring a rookie guard in, all of a sudden they have 2 guys to compete with those 2 guys at those 2 tackle spots, we have a real competition on our hands at that point. So I think they've shown us that they don't know exactly how to field with this offensive line, but they're just going to cover all bases by bringing these guys in and let the chips fall where they may. And I'm a fan of that philosophy, but that also says, going into this season, I don't think either of these guys can just say, yeah, let's write this guy in with a pencil or a pen or a Sharpie. Nah, bro, we are truly at a point where I don't know where this offensive line depth is going to land as far as that piece is concerned.
Well, and there's a lot of stuff you say there I like. I wouldn't do anything at this point past pencil for this offensive line. When I say Walker Little is safe, I don't necessarily mean to say he's a guaranteed starter. I mean he's still going to be on the roster, which at this point is in itself an accomplishment. Okay. Granted, despite the money he was thrown at him too, I think, like I said, that has to be a factor. The only thing I might mark in pen is Hainsey at center. It's hard for me to see him getting moved out of that spot. I know you have his concerns about him being a technique guy versus a power guy. I've explained why him being a technique guy makes sense in the interim as a stopgap kind of veteran, where if you decide you want a power guy, you can move off of Hainsey in 6 or 7, 26 or 27, I should say. So that, there's there. But yeah, if anybody, I love how people think that they can eliminate an offensive line player from their mind now that they got all these guys, and that the Jags are predictable in what they're going to pick next. But there's so much versatility in literally every guy I feel like that they've acquired. You don't know what they're doing. They could turn around and pick Will Campbell at 5 if Mason Graham is off the board, or they decide he's too much like his other current tackles.
We can keep it in just the O-line. And I'm like, if they were to draft a center as early as the 3rd round,
like a Jacob Majors,
third round of
the
3rd round of the draft, and all of a sudden I'm just looking at like, yep, that makes sense. Even though we just signed, Haney, or if they drafted a guard as early again you might be talking if they trade back 1st round, maybe 2nd round of the draft, and all of a sudden Patrick McCurry, all of a sudden Patrick McCurry is competing for one of those tackle spots. You make draft, they can draft a tackle at 5. And again, people have mocked them there saying they want to change this room up, even though we have 2 tackle options for competition purposes. If that's not telling you everything that you need to know about how unpredictable this situation is with a new regime, with a new head coach, with new scheme, a new philosophy, that should be everything. Because again, all these guys struggled in run blocking, and even then, that was in a previous scheme that may not be this one. Mm-hmm. So I'm here for the unpredictability that's associated with all of these changes, but it also means that none of these guys can be comfortable right now, and they all should be working their asses off to be ready for what's to come, because nothing is guaranteed at this point.
No, that's a great take. I mean, listen, I will give credit for Winford for what I thought was a relatively safe. I thought it was a very straightforward question, but I know you and I would have meat on this bone. And as safe this offseason means to me that this regime likes them enough to keep them, to evaluate them. Do we think they're a lock for 26? What is it? Bishop Bullwinkle? Hell to the no, to the no. So yeah, because nobody's safe except for Hainsey right now. Facts of the case. And yeah, you're wearing the perfect T-shirt for those of you, those of you out there in the pod dedicated to Rosa Parks with the word "nah" on the front. That's perfect, man. Ain't nobody safe in 26, and Anton and Walker Little are safe now. But if they have down years in 25, I don't be surprised.
Yeah, I don't think it got to be a down year. It could just be the same years that they've had, and I don't think that's good enough.
That's a good point.
I want to be very clear. I think if Walker Little, if he had the same year that he had in 2023, I think he'd probably be fine. Just to be clear, because he was actually one of the only ones that was good in run blocking. But I really am leaning on this run blocking thing. They were so bad at run blocking consistently, and Anton Harrison has never had a good season where he was a good run blocker. We gave him a pass his rookie year because it was a rookie, and everybody was loving the fact that he was such a great pass blocking right tackle.
Right.
However, he's never gotten very much, like he's marginally better in 2024. And we're at a point now, if he has the same year, even in the same realm, the same tier as he had in 2024, you are contemplating moving on, or you are putting one of those other two guys in that right tackle spot if
You
they're an
feel like an
improvement in the run
upgrade is
game.
feasible is the short version. If he has another year like that, you feel like an upgrade is feasible. And this group has proven, at the very least in this offseason, that they'll go find it.
Yeah, that's it.
So, no.
That's the take. Cut.
Wrap. I was just about to click to the next one. And I love when we have something like this. It's real easy when I upload these to Fans First Sports Network to find the place to put the commercial. So there you go. With that in mind, Radius shots. I think we finally got to your question, Radius, because Ariel Hansen Johnson. I put it off this long because this was a meaty question, man. I didn't realize this was your question, but thank you for throwing this one in. This is one I literally saw Travis breathe in deep when he saw this. But anyways, this time last season, we were fooling ourselves into thinking Ryan Nielsen's defense would be good and getting overexcited. That's with the hindsight of 2020. I don't think any of us knew how much he was going to actually rotate, but that's a fair statement. What evidence do we have that things will be better under Campanile, and how is it that different to what got us falsely optimistic for his predecessor last year? Well, I already touched on it, Travis. He's not going to rotate friggin' Foye-Oluokun off the field on third bleeping down. That'll be one. How about that? Can we just start there? Gosh, Radius, listen, man, I'm sorry. Travis will tell you how many times on the Duval Dive Live have I talked about how much I hate the rotation stuff. Oh God. So that alone, I think it just like Gladstone isn't guaranteed to be a success at GM. The same way Campanile is not guaranteed to be a success as the Jags defensive coordinator, but I do know the healing can begin. So that's the optimism for me. What could go wrong? Listen, this is a run first guy. If he ain't stopping the run still, he's going to have some questions to answer. I'll leave it at that. What do you say, Travis?
I mean, that's fair. And yeah, to your original point, I saw this question and I did exactly one of those. What I was doing, I'm like, woo, boy, he just you brought it with that one. Okay, yeah. You're not wrong, because all of this is based on faith. You still have a whole new roster of coaches who are all new in their role. Like even when you're talking Campanile and you want to look at, I don't know, Green Bay and see what they've done on defense, and you're like, oh yeah, it's going to be that. Well, you don't know if it's going to be that. You don't even know if he's had the same philosophy or he just happened to work under a guy who had a different philosophy than what he shared. Awesome. You have to make a few assumptions there. And nevertheless, it will still be his first time being an NFL defensive coordinator. And with any job, when you're doing something for the first time, there are just unknowns. And there may be struggles in learning to shoulder different things. Also, with all that being said, what gives me the confidence that Campanile is going to be different than Ryan Nielsen? Honestly, nothing that has to do with Campanile and everything to do with his GM. Ooh. And I'm going to be honest about that. Like, before we even get into scheme, before we get into 3-4-4-3 and all of these other conversations, zone versus man and blitz heavy and stunts and all this other stuff, I'm starting and ending with, is Trent Baalke the GM? No? All right, cool. That's an improvement. That is an improvement because I frankly and honestly believe that the Jacksonville Jaguars, even in 2024, even with Ryan Nielsen, even with their instability, or I can't even call it instability, I'll call it inflexible way of calling defenses that didn't allow for blitzing and stunts and everything else, I think they would have been significantly better had they just invested in the cornerback room that offseason, like we all said and screamed for that entire offseason and draft. What? So it just starting there, if they had invested heavily in that defensive backfield, the Jacksonville Jaguars would have been in a significantly better spot in defense. So because you have a forward-thinking, I think we can lean on and agree that they're a forward-thinking organization who won't leave their coaches out to dry, and they'll at least try to infuse some talent into those rooms. I have to believe that this will be a better product only because at least they'll freaking try to give me the guys to try to work with. And if I fail, I failed on scheme. I didn't fail because I didn't have the dogs to work with, like Mike Caldwell, like Ryan Nielsen in back-to-back seasons. That's why.
I had hoped you would get the opportunity to evoke your defensive Mike Caldwell once again. That was no, that was absolutely delicious. I mean, the only way I would pull back on defensive back investment not landing the plane as well as you would have liked is simply because the injury situation has been with that room the past 2 seasons. Now, that being said,
Yeah.
you can't predict that, right?
Yeah, you can. You signed a cornerback who was injured 3 of his 4 starting seasons to an extension, and then he got injured in the offseason right after signing said extension.
Well, yeah, and that's true of Tyson Campbell, no question. But they sustained a lot more injuries than just that, right?
Sure.
You know, hell, Jarian Jones is playing hurt for Christ's sake.
Dewey got injured early in this season, but if you were truly walking into the season expecting Dewey Wingert to be your starting safety or to be on the field for significant snaps at safety position, then you signed up to be a failure in your role. I'm sorry, it's honestly true.
But he took those significant steps down the road because that many guys got injured. That's my point.
No, but he took significant snaps down the road because they were bad. Like Cisco was playing bad and needed to be off the field. Antonio Johnson was playing bad and needed to be off the field. That's why Dewey was getting those reps because nobody else existed that was able to actually read a defense and be in position. And Dewey was going to do one thing and one thing only. Dewey is your best CYA person. For anybody who works in corporate America, you know exactly what I'm talking about. They got somebody at your job who is forever going to always CYA. They are not going to screw this up. I love this job too dang much. I ain't going to lose this job. I'm going to be on time. I'm going to be right in my spot, and I'm never going to have those unforced errors. That is Dewey Wingert all day. They put that ball on the field and said, don't get beat deep. And he said, yes, sir, I'll be right in position. And that's exactly what he did. Because the other guys who are more athletic just could not do the basics, man.
They were writing intangible checks with their brains that their bodies, even their bodies, couldn't cash. I definitely get where you're going with that. So,
yeah, man.
Because if you're that far out of position, even Michael Jordan can't jump that far. You know, not bad, man.
I enjoyed that question. I really thank you, Radius, the Johannesson. Yeah, that was a good one. Yeah, that was a good one because again, you're not wrong, man. A lot of people have this confidence in the coaching staff because it's the off season.
Hey, let me stop you there. This was so DB centric. By the way, we're making assumptions again. Oh, and I alluded to it in passing, but I think, listen, Coach Campanile, if I may, Kyle Nash, great to meet you. Listen, if you're the run game coordinator, you have one job. Yeah, I know. Travis will get all mad about the DBs if they don't produce, and whatever. That's fine. Bias is a thing. Now it's my turn for me to flex my bias. You need to fix one position. You have 2 guys at edge that will probably get you, if healthy, 10 sacks on the air. You have Foye Oluokun, who is regularly the top 5 in the NFL in sacks and probably the most underrated linebacker in the damn league. If he stays healthy, you're good. Brentwell Miller and the other linebackers, okay, fine. You might find replacements for them in the draft, I'll grant you. But if you do not fix defensive tackle, so A, Foye can stay healthier because he's not getting walloped at the second level. B, these other linebackers don't have to blitz as much, desperate to stop the A-gaps. And you stop the run, as you so told us you could with your previous stops title. If you can't do all that, you're in bigger trouble. And because I think, Travis, the fruit hangs that low, and it was so egregiously and grossly mismanaged, if you can't clear that bar, then yeah, it's going to be another season of disappointment in the defensive coordinator spot, in my opinion.
I think you're right, but the Jaguars weren't horrendous at stopping the run even in 2024. They were just bad at getting interior pressure. Like they were second worst in the league from getting interior pressure. So it wasn't the early downs. It was the late downs. So Devon Hamilton with his 12% run stop rate was not bad at all. It was actually pretty good. It was the fact that they then, when it was second down and third down and long or whatever, they couldn't get off the field because they had no interior pressure. So they might have the solutions on the roster without even adding a guy to stop guys on early downs. So Campanile, hopefully, fingers crossed, just needs to add one defensive tackle that can give them a little bit more pressure, or maybe that might be Eric Armstead, but he's probably gonna be a rotational guy, more likely than not, to
At
give
this
you some
point in his
interior
career.
pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Here's the
you
thing,
more than
man.
likely gonna be.
That's
Yeah,
why
go
the
ahead.
bar is so low. You tell me where's a world that exists where the answers could already be on the roster. And what was the lead thing
Right.
we both said? You'll stop the damn rotating. If somehow, with the bar being this low, you can't fix the run game and, to your point, interior pressure, then you have bigger problems. Period.
Right. You got to give me a Deion Walker. Give me an Omar Norman Lott. Give me somebody who is a solid pass rusher option, and when you can take Devon Hamilton off the field on early downs, and then let the dogs go, man. Like, that's all I need in life. That's why I say I'm leaning on the GM, just making this thing just slightly better, just marginally better. You can be marginally better with some intelligence, and I think you'll give me that'll give you 2 games over 500.
But you
Like, I
keep
think we're
citing
just there.
Devon, and here I am ready in the episode, but I got to stretch this one out. You keep citing Devon Hamilton. Travis, I am out of the business covering this Jacksonville Jaguar team. Yeah, I know I'm a Niner fan, but hear me out. I am out of the business on this Jacksonville Jaguar team supporting injury-prone defensive tackles, period. I love Folaransu Fatukasi. He couldn't stay healthy. Devon Hamilton's coming back from a back thing. How sustainable is he going to be?
He's 2 years off that. I mean, at this point, he'll be 2 years off that back thing. You have to
he
hope.
needs to show out, is my point.
I agree with you, but he was never that pass rusher guy. He was signed never being that pass rusher guy. You can look at Trent Baalke all you want, but he was
I'm
signed.
taking the guy that you cited. If he's not a pass rushing threat, then again, where's it coming from?
He's only your early down guy. That's why I named guys again. That's why I named Omar Norman Lott. That's why I named Deion Walker. I didn't. I mean, I could have named Walter Nolan or someone else, but I was trying to be realistic and mid round guys. But that's my point: is they need those second and third round pressure guys. You just know you're not going to get as much from Hamilton on the early downs, and that's okay as long as you can stop the run on first down. You'll be okay. All the data already shows us that. So that's where my head's at least.
Okay. Yeah. Get that guy in the building and make sure that he could stay on the field, which we can't. And I mean, I mentioned Devon Hamilton. Cool. I'm not exactly thrilled with Eric Armstead's stint so far. But again, a lot of that was rotation as well, obviously.
Yeah.
So, we know he's going to be a defensive tackle now. There isn't a mystery like there was in camp last year. I'll never forget.
Who sold who on what in the offseason?
Yeah, I'll never forget having to lean over to our good friend John Shipley, Jaguars on SI, and going, hey, I know he's a D tackle, but he's listed as a D in here. What do I actually write? I'm confused. I go with D tackle. That's what's correct. Well, what happened was, and then what he said was, anyways, let's wrap this episode up, man. Tell the world where you can be found.
Hey, I can be found on all the socials. Travis D. Holmes, Facebook, Instagram, X, Twitter, Blue Sky. I don't know, all of them, man. I'm sure there's an application I'm forgetting out there. Is MySpace still running? If it is, then I bet my account's still active. Y'all should check it out.
Tom watches the Duval dive. You're damn right. Tom's a Duval diver.
Yeah, I don't know. Tom reps the Jaguars, man. Let's go. BigCatCountry.com. We always got you covered, man. So definitely favorite that as your site and check us out for all your updated news covering the Jaguars, whether it's the top 30 visits tracker that Gus already has up on the site, or it's the free agent tracker finding out what's going on with the Jaguars. Maybe we'll get a 6th round pick with Cole Van Lannon if he ends up choosing to sign with the Seattle Seahawks. We'll see if the team, if he ends up getting a contract offer, maybe the team will have a choice to make him whether or not they want to match that contract because they did put an original tender on him. So we'll see what happens with that. But again, these are the kind of things you take a look at the site. You'll see what I'm talking about. But we definitely got you covered. What about you, Kyle?
Of course, I'm Kyle Nash. The guy on Nash, the student of the game. You'll find me on Fans for Sports Network talking Jaguars and the Orlando Magic, plus my work covering the UCF Knights on the Black and Gold Banneret, as well as the Night Shift podcast. Check out that YouTube channel as well, Night Shift. And of course, you can find me on the socials at the SOTG for the Student of the Game on Instagram, Threads, Twitter, and Blue Sky, as well as the Student of the Game on Facebook. That has been your grab bag for this latest part of the year. We'll probably do it again before we get to training camp, but thanks all of you to all the questions, especially these last two, man. They were, I'd say, you might have needed a certification for this Duval dive, and we went deep on that. I loved every minute of it. So for my good friend Travis D. Holmes, thank you again for your questions and your time. I'm Kyle Nash, Student of the Game. Until next time, everyone, class dismissed.